One reason why people refuse to accept the teachings of the Bible is because it at least appears to support views and social structures that subjugate women. We could cite innumerable examples of people who have used the scriptures down through the centuries to denigrate women. The question is whether that's an example of the right use or the abuse of the Bible. Does the Bible divide the sexes and elevate men at the expense of women? What does the Bible have to say about men and women? In order to address that question most helpfully, let's consider the broad sweep of the Bible's message. When we do that, we discover that the Bible affirms the equality, the complementarity, and the unity of the sexes. First, let's begin with the equality of the sexes. In Genesis 1, God not only creates human beings in general, but He creates male and female in particular. The opening chapters of the Bible stand out in comparison to other writings from the ancient Near East because Genesis emphatically states that both men and women are created in God's image, and therefore both men and women are imbued with equal dignity and worth. There's no suggestion that one sex is more like God or more responsible for the earth than the other. There's not even a hint that one gender is superior or inferior. The Bible affirms the full equality of men and women. If Genesis 1 stresses the equality of the sexes, Genesis 2 affirms the complementarity of the sexes. After each day of creation, regardless of how you interpret these days, God evaluates what He has made and He declares it good. After the creation of human beings on the sixth day, God declares His work very good. But when we turn to Genesis 2, we learn that there is something not good in the garden. It is not good that the man should be alone. Accordingly, God declares, "I will make a helper fit for him." Men and women alike have abused these passages, so let's be clear about what they're really saying. First of all, the word helper in Hebrew appears 19 times in the Old Testament, and 16 of those 19 times it is used to describe God. Clearly, this does not imply that the woman is a second-class citizen. The word describes the woman's essential contribution, not her inadequacy. Second, the expression fit for him should be translated as suitable. The woman is suitable because, unlike the rest of creation, the woman is equal and adequate to the man. She is complementary to, but opposite of the man. God proceeds to take one of the ribs from the man's side and uses the rib to make the first woman. Even commentators living hundreds of years ago in firmly patriarchal cultures understood the true importance of this statement. Writing in the 1200s, for example, Peter Lombard wrote that the woman was taken not from the man's feet to be his slave, nor from his head to be his lord, but from his side to be his partner. What do we learn from this? God made male and female, but He also made us different. There's enormous cultural pressure to eliminate all talk of difference for fear that it will lead to inequality. But Genesis suggests that gender difference, as difficult as it may be to define, is a good thing to be celebrated rather than eliminated. There's no inequality between men and women in terms of dignity, ability, or giftedness. But there is some kind of creational difference that makes male and female non-interchangeable. The inequality, domination, and oppression that exists in our society today is not the result of God's good creation. It's a distortion resulting from humanity's fall into sin. In Genesis 3, God describes part of the curse that has fallen over human beings. He says to the woman, "Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." That word desire actually carries a negative connotation. A nearly identical expression is used in the following chapter when God warns Cain not to kill his brother Abel. He says, "Sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." This is a description of how sin distorts human relationships, not a prescription of what God intends. God is suggesting that the woman's desire will be to dominate the man, but the husband will dominate her. In other words, rather than men and women cherishing and loving one another, their relationships will be marked by power grabs. What then will restore the unity between men and women? The prophets look forward to a day when the equality of men and women would be restored. And in the fullness of time, Jesus was born of a woman to redeem all of us from the curse of the fall. But it was not only Jesus' birth of a woman, but his attitude toward them that restored that measure of dignity that had once been lost. It may be hard for us to wrap our minds around this, but in the first century, believe it or not, a Jewish male was forbidden to even speak with a woman in public. And under no circumstances could a woman receive instruction in the scriptures. But Jesus broke these rules of tradition and social convention without a moment's hesitation. He engaged in a theological discussion with a Samaritan woman at Jacob's well. He risked his own reputation and allowed a prostitute to wet his feet with her tears, dry them with her hair, and cover them with her kisses. Jesus received these demonstrations of love as expressions of gratitude for her forgiveness. Along with the 12 men that Jesus chose to be his apostles, many women accompanied Jesus on his travels from the beginning of his ministry right up to the very end. In fact, all 4 Gospels attest to the fact that women were the very first witnesses of his resurrection from the dead. Several of these women supported Jesus financially out of their own means. And in profoundly countercultural fashion, Jesus regarded them as disciples in their own right. For example, when Jesus' friend Mary assumed the posture of a disciple by sitting at Jesus' feet to receive his teaching, he praised her for her choice. Jesus' affirmation of women was unmistakable. Christianity is often denounced as patriarchal and sexist. But it's no wonder that women embraced Christianity in far greater numbers than men throughout the Greco-Roman world of the 1st and 2nd centuries. Christianity was rightly seen as a radically equalizing rather than dehumanizing force. I'd love to hear from you, and in fact, that'd be a great help to me. I want to know what's on your mind, so if you have questions or comments about what I've shared, or if there are other topics you'd like me to address, leave a comment below or send me an email at seniorpastor@centralchurchnyc.org. Thanks for watching.